Hello, this is Lori Schmidt, the Wolf Curator, and we're going to start the live event here for Explore.org. And so I'm hoping South Camera is down right now. I'm trying to figure out what happened there, but we'll try to get that situated here. So as I go forward, again, this is an opportunity for people to ask questions. And kind of the format is that I will share some video that has been taken on Explore.org over the last week and try to interpret some of the behavior and also kind of give you a challenge to try to look for things that we can, maybe need some help with. In other words, there's a couple of things that I'm going to be looking for in this next week. We are in another hot spell coming up, and so we're wanting to assess animal health and animal condition. And so this is something that I think is important for us to get viewers who can get snapshots in the gallery, and especially when Bolt's comes out. We're having some significant issues with Bolt's tolerance of summer conditions, heat, and usually bugs make him kind of go underground. And when he isolates himself like that, he takes himself out of the pack structure. And when he's out of the pack structure, that's a indication that he's a little bit weaker. And then Axel tends to focus on him. So that's one of the challenges that we have. And I would really like, if I could, some help to try to address that. So like I said, we're looking at the north camera right now. We did some cleaning of it yesterday, got some more vines out of the way. And now the south camera's up. And the south camera is, again, a little bit more wooded. Actually, Bolt's is in there. He did a walk around this morning, and he's in the middle of this really heavy cover. There's some underground dens that were dug actually in 1993 when this exhibit first opened, this acre and a quarter exhibit. We had wolves here in 1989, but in a very small area in the front of the towards the front of the building. And then in 1993, we built this acre and a quarter for the 93 litter Lakota, the Omega at that time. Also kind of retreating from some dominance, developed this series of tunnels. Every wolf since then has added to those series of tunnels. And so I just wanted to, again, show people kind of the layout of where things are. And then as I go through the video, I will talk more about what some of the issues are. So again, you can type in questions. I will try to address them. And again, we are hoping that I can get the wolves to kind of participate. It is warm here this morning at 6 in the morning. It was already 68 degrees with 75% humidity, and it was only increasing as time went on. So that doesn't seem like much, I know, for some people who are in sweltering heat. For northern Minnesota, it's just not something we're used to. We're in a drought right now. We were supposed to get rain last night and didn't, and so that makes it a little bit more challenging for us. So that's kind of where we're at. And so I'm going to just quick check the questions before I go forward. Nothing, looks like I got a few new ones here. So let me make sure, I think it was everything that I addressed yesterday. So I'm going to go forward. And so what I'm looking at here, first of all, is I want to talk a little bit of history. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a video clip. And I know that the sound may be a little bit high, so I'm going to kind of back that sound off a little bit. But this is Aiden, pack leader, and one of the things that was asked is what's the difference between play and social behavior, and when does it become dominance? And this is a perfect example of what starts to be a playful chase amongst the pack. Aiden was the pack leader. Bolts was testing Aiden for status. This was in September of 2017. So Aiden was going on 10, which is what the time pack leaders changed. What triggers this is Bolts with a quick grab right on Aiden, and then he and Axel start what is considered to be aggressive, not a mobbing with about 4 wolves. That's very concerning to us, and that's something I want to talk about with Denali. But it's 2 wolves targeting for dominance. Axel is grabbing the tail, And that's Axel's move since he's been a pup. He's been a tail grabber. I remember people sending out pup pictures saying, "Oh, isn't this cute? Isn't this cute?" It is not cute. Not when it comes to an adult wolf. As a method, they can do some significant damage. And so in this case, again, this is testing of Aiden. He was the pack leader at that time. So it went from play. What triggered this kind of aggressive dominance, and I call this aggressive dominance, is when Grayson came around the corner of being chased, he put his hackles up, he had his tail down, and notice Grayson's not grabbing Aiden. Grayson and Aiden had a really strong bond. As a matter of fact, Aiden protected Grayson for the first couple of years of his life from Denali, because Denali was very, very hard on Grayson. And so this is a testing behavior, kind of a grabbing, pulling, and the reality is sometimes if you watch Wolf Care, I get the same thing, not the pulling of the tail, but the pulling of my coat, pulling of my weakness, which is my elbow, Axel jumping on me, grabbing me. Testing is inherent wolf behavior, and this was the start of the decline and the deposing of that alpha male, dominant male, alpha in the wild. I use it in captivity because it's not, they don't want to use alpha in the wild because it's, typically in the wild it's parents and their offspring and previous years offspring. And we, again, have a circumstance where we are dealing with, in captivity, non-breeding facility, meaning that they're not related. Obviously, we manage 3 different subspecies here, and so we don't have like a dominant pair taking ownership over their own young. I do think that there's more respect from the parents than wolves that are adopted, but I don't think it's completely out of line to say that subordinates can do the same thing to their own parents. It's not unheard of in captivity. I don't deal with that because we don't breed here, so I don't know a lot about that, but I do know some other facilities that I've talked to have had issues. So a lot of times people say, why didn't you take him out? Well, at this juncture, he wasn't ready to go. And this is a clear issue that we have with our wolves, in that they have to be psychologically ready to go into retirement and give it up. If they at all want to keep asserting rank or keep being part of that exhibit pack while they're in retirement, it's going to manifest itself into stress. And stress, we had this problem in 2002. We took Lakota out. She was our first wolf to come out of the exhibit pack for retirement in our history. In February, we put her by herself. We said, "Oh, I feel bad for her. She's getting some bite wounds. I want to move her." She did nothing but bite branches, lick herself in obsessive compulsive licking, biting at fences, trying to get back in. Finally, by June, we said, "Okay, this wolf's gonna put herself into a medical condition because of stress." Put her back in, and she accepted some dominance from them, and she became a pack member again. And she was in that pack, and she actually stayed in that pack longer than her siblings. And we learned a lot about that. So right now on the camera, on the north camera, that's Denali. We fed last night, and so Denali has part of a deer carcass. I see he got the deer head. He's got a deer gut, meaning he overate. He's not getting up. As a matter of fact, I went over to try to look at him. Somebody told me that while I was in doing an enclosure check and looking for bolts, Denali got up and he had a front right leg limp. So that could have been something in his rush to charge somebody. He sprained his wrist. I tried to walk over to him to look, and he is food defending. He's food defending from us and staff. So he gave me a lip curl, and there's no way I'm going to walk up and violate his trust, because this is a social rule for wolves that says you need to stay away from me. This is my food. This is all inherent behavior. When you are living in the wild and you're hunting one prey species and you're sharing it with 6 or 7 or 10 or 14 wolves, you got to have some social rules. And that's one of the social rules that Denali has, that all of the wolves have, and that I want to make sure that we respect, so that again, we have to respect who they are. We have to respect their trust. They are not dogs, and we're not going to treat them like dogs. We're going to try to understand them like wolves, and that's kind of the big issue that I have. So let me take a break while he's sleeping here and go back to. I'm going to just check in and see if I have any new questions. So let me just go make sure that I'm taking a look at the right place, and there we go. I need to keep updating my browser. It doesn't automatically update for me. So no new questions that I can see. So again, if somebody's watching, and maybe you could just tag in a question just to make sure that I've got it working, that would be great. So let me go on to the next video, and this is something that someone shared with me. And again, I just really want to reiterate just how valuable the Explorer.org cameras are. First of all, our cameras would never have picked up half of what I'm seeing as far as the dominance, just because we have one camera in the front, another camera kind of on the side angle by retirement, 2 retired cameras. We wouldn't see all the things that we're seeing. So this next clip that I'm going to share with you, so this next clip, and you hear a yell. Probably food related. So that was June 20th. So by sharing that Aiden clip first, I wanted you to understand Bill, even though he's timid about his issues with actual life, in a circumstance and he will test for opportunities. This is concerning for me. Obviously, I saw this clip. I didn't know this went on. We knew that he had a new fresh bite wound on the back. We've been having issues with Grayson. We've been switching things up with Grayson, trying to feed him every day because Grayson has an issue with what we call manifest itself as aggression. Aggression details of that I'm not going to share here, but I've been working on that with psychologists, and let me just kind of share with you a definition of frustration, fury, and aggression. So this is an actual theory, and it's not just with wolves, it's with all mammals, humans as well. The theory says that aggression is a result of blocking or frustrating a person's efforts to attain a goal. So that's the human definition. When first formulated, the hypothesis stated that frustration always precedes aggression, and aggression is a pure consequence of frustration. So when I look at that sequence, and I look at that aggression, and I'm not going to play it again, but just want you to kind of understand it. I can't deal with the aggression part until I understand the frustration part. And so I know, and anybody who watched Denali last night in the feeding knows, this boy is food possessive. Denali is, again, the oldest wolf I ever managed in the exhibit. Normally by 10, wolves are retired. Aiden was retired by 10, shortly after 10. Shadow was retired at 10. Malik was retired at 9. Mackenzie, Lucas, Lakota, they were all retired in 2002. They were born in 93, so in their 9th, a little bit after their 9th birthday, 9.5 years, they were retired. Denali's the wonder. And he's the wonder because he can possess food like no other. And I saw Elizabeth has a sketch already going of Denali and Axel. Yeah, no doubt he can manage better than anybody I've ever seen. So that makes it challenging for us because we know that the frustration is probably food. And so when I talk about that, and one of the behaviors that I watch is that really slow, deliberate movement that you saw kind of towards the end of the clip, is I certainly want to make a statement that we can't dislike a wolf because of what it does. I know that's hard. But I want to make sure that people understand that the wolves have inherent behaviors and we accept that. And I don't like to see Denali get bit. I mean, my God, it breaks my heart. Um, I know that I can't make them dogs. I even have dogs who bite each other. You put 6 dogs together, next thing you know, somebody's coming home with a bite wound. But the reality is, I can do something about the frustration. I can try to understand it. I can try to make that better for them. So that's kind of where we're at with our circumstance. Um, like I can say, that was the first I saw. I call that a mobbing. And a mobbing means all 3 of them on him. Now, Bolts kind of quickly left. The good thing that we know about mobbings is that if you can draw off one of the individuals, oftentimes the attitude of the others who are not as committed to the dominance will back off as well. So we work on that, trying to figure that out. And at that time, I think what happened, that was pretty early yet, but wolf care staff are getting in and coming into the lab. And that may have been somebody coming in, or that may have been Grizzer. Grizzer, our retired wolf, he'll often come over to the side of the fence if he hears dominance. And I've even heard him put out high-pitched whines or even howl to try to kind of back them off. So I do have a question here. Chad Sell. Hi, Chad. How you doing? Does the wolf care staff do any additional monitoring over the 4th of July firework reactions? Actually, we have done such a good job of firework conditioning when the wolves are puppies that we don't really need to. They really don't have any issues with thunderstorms. They really don't have any issues with 4th of July fireworks. We do have staff here checking, but they're really not like dogs in that they have a fear avoidance behavior of that, and it's because of the positive conditioning. So on a 4th of July night, and I don't have a clip of that handy, if I had to try to look for one, I'd probably shut the whole place down. But I have a clip of 4th of July with Axel and Grayson. We brought in watermelons. We brought in all kinds of fun toys. As soon as the 4th of July fireworks started, we started bringing out just piles and piles and piles of things that were fun. We rolled them around. They kind of stop and listen to the fireworks and then play with the watermelon. And by half an hour into it, they didn't even, they were just ignoring the fireworks. So if you can create a distraction during the attempt of the fireworks or during the attempt of a thunderstorm that takes their mind off of it, that's much more comforting than trying to placate them or pet them or calm them, because if they're agitated by something and you try to calm them, you're calming in the agitated state. So I distract them, block them, get them out of that state of mind, and then work with them. In 2012, with Bolts and Luna, if I could find that clip, and maybe next time I go live, I'll share that. But Bolts and Luna, Luna had to be separated because she had surgery and she was still in a quarantine surgical issue, so she couldn't be with Bolts. Bolts and Oscar, the dog we had, oh my God, they were just running and running and running. And Bolts has no phobia about 4th of July. So got other phobias. If I could solve the bug issue, I would, but I can't. So anyway, so that's kind of where we're at. So other things I wanted to share today was, again, trying to get a sense of what's the next move that we have to kind of deal with. And so it looks to me like sleeping wolves are going to be our target for wolves on this camera today. So let me jump to a clip I played last week. And again, I want to make sure that this was last week, so this was off the explore.org on the North camera. And just to show you that wolves don't hold grudges. So again, this is before, and so let you know that again, this was before the mobbing. So you want to see that Axel and Grayson and Denali interacting. Obviously, Grayson come up pretty quick, and so that makes me always a little suspect. But this is a clip of after the mobbing. So you can see here the 25th, that mobbing was on the 20th, I believe. So here's the 25th. Here's typical Axel and Grayson. This is 4-year-olds being 4-year-olds, meaning they got a lot of energy. They got to put it somewhere. You might have witnessed on the explore.org camera that I bought Axel a Kong, theoretically the strongest toy in the world. He's broke it in a half, like 20 minutes. I took it back out. You know, we have carcasses, we have deer, we have beaver, we have all kinds of skeletons, but because they get so many of these stimuli, they're not novel anymore. And so we're always trying to kind of come up with new things that keep their brains occupied, because that's part of the frustration level. When your brain's not occupied, when you're bored, bored can lead to frustration, and we know frustration can lead to aggression. So what I wanted to share with you here is look at Denali. So this is 5 days after the mobbing. And again, even that day after the mobbing, he was back in command. It shook him, there's no doubt. It rattled him, meaning that he got upset about it. His tail was tucked. But here he is, boys are playing. He wants to be right in there. I wish he wouldn't, because, he's old, and that's not a thing you want to do. We're in there with him, and so I try to, distract, and I'm going to go put some fly ointment on, and usually fly ointment is a good reason for wolves to leave me. But I know what it's like to be old. I'm old. I mean, I've been taking care of wolves since 1986. It's hot, it's humid, my joints hurt, it's hard to walk. I understand Denali's pain, but I still can't make him stop being a pack member. So he likes interacting, and we allow him to do what he needs to do. If I were to go in and block that and block him, what that does is it triggers frustration. If I go back to that definition of blocking and frustration-based aggression for a dog is when a dog is held back from approaching something he desires, and that excites him. So you'll notice during wolf care, when we start doing body work on Denali, we start greeting him, brushing him, chucking him out, and then Grayson comes up and we step in front and we block him. That is a barrier frustration. Barrier frustration sees what he wants to reach, but he can't, and he's prevented from getting it. And so oftentimes with a dog on a leash, this could result in the dog biting the leash or the dog biting the owner. Here it results in Grayson coming in and biting Denali. So the term aggression, again, refers to a constellation of behaviors that range from warnings to attacks. Warnings take the form of a dog becoming stiff and still. You probably saw that with Denali. You see that with, it's kind of, we call it the dance. So when it goes from play, so to answer Elizabeth's question, when it goes from play to aggression, I'm watching for this dance, this change, slow, stiff, deliberate movements. Barking is a threat display. Wolves don't bark repetitively like a dog. Half barks. If Grayson lets out a half bark, he is serious about a threat display. Showing teeth, growling, lunging towards the object of their aggression, biting behavior, quick nips that doesn't break the skin. Could be a tear bite, a bite that causes bruising, a bite that leaves a puncture wound, quick succession bites, bites paired with a shake. That's a predatory bite. And so that's when I know it's crossed the barrier. It's no longer social. It is a predatory killing bite. So head shake, that's how prey are killed. So predators bite them and then shake them vigorously to kill them. If I see that, that is my indicator that this is gone beyond dominance. This is predatory. So that's what I really got to watch for as far as the issues. So like I said, that was 5 days after the mobbing, and then, like, you need another sleeping video, but this was yesterday. So when I talk about pack compatibility, this is the kind of thing that helps me make that assessment. Denali and the boys sleeping together. Bolts, he's up in the woods, and that's not about pack. To some extent, Axel, but it's almost like the cart before the horse. Denali hangs with the pack. So even though they kind of pick on him a little bit, he's with them. He's part of them. When Bolts isolates himself because of the bugs, because of the heat, because of whatever goes on in his brain that makes summer times miserable for him, and this has been going on for like 3 or 4 years. He's an 8-year-old. He wasn't like this in the first few years of his life. But when he does that, he isolates himself from the social group. When he comes back, it's a matter of time before Axel sees him coming back into the pack structure. It's not uncommon in the wild when wolves are out hunting, and they're out hunting alone, when they come back to the pack, that there's dominance. because you could be injured when you're out hunting alone, and the wolves are going to reassess. Are you still, the third ranking male, or did something happen to you while you were gone? It happens. It happens a lot after howling. And so that's something that we kind of take a look at and try to identify. So let me just check and see if I've got any other questions as I go through here. I want to make sure I don't miss anybody's questions and kind of address, what's going on from the pack standpoint. Nope, I don't see any new questions. Just sort again. Nope, no new questions. So let me go forward with the next kind of clip. And even though we saw the pack sleeping, I know that we have frustrations about feeding. So this was last night's feeding. Again, we fed a deer torso cut up into 3 equal parts. The neck, we cut the torso in half, and then we fed a fawn. And lo and behold, Denali got the fawn, and Denali allows Axel to eat on the fawn with him. No threat display. Later on, he became possessive about it, but won't even allow Grayson to come near it. This is a frustration factor for Grayson. So today, we did a fecal check. We gathered 2 scat samples. We watched both Axel and Grayson defecate. They both have dark scat. So we know that they both fed. So dark scat is an indication of meat in the system. If wolves can gorge, they can eat up to 20% of their body weight, which is probably why Denali is sleeping like he is, because he's probably got a full belly. He might be carrying 15, 20 pounds of meat in the system. Probably not 20, but probably 15 pounds of meat in the system. It is common for wolves to then just sleep. They might rest for 20 hours after a kill site. The researchers that fly telemetry will often comment, wolves curled up, blood on the ice, kill site's been made, 90% consumed. They just are counting wolves that are just curled up in bed sleeping for, hours at a time. That's the nature of the business. Feast and famine digestive system. So that kind of evolves, the digestive system evolves into some of the behavioral patterns that we're struggling with. So it's not because, they're mean. It's not because they hate each other. It's the simple dynamics about frustration, aggression, food competition. In the wild, this is a common issue of food competition. As a matter of fact, you take away the human component and you take away pup mortality from disease, and you're probably left with a high concentration of mortality cause being wolf on wolf aggression. That's kind of the nature of the business. They're competitive, and that's how they kind of address some things. So that's kind of the circumstance that we are in. And I got a new comment. Hello. Just jumping in the live feed. So excited. Well, good. I'm glad you are able to log in here. We are going to continue to play some video. I started off with some clips about some dominance things and talk a little bit about Boltz's kind of issues, talked about the feeding. Now I'm going to talk about the late night activities. So Boltz has become a creature of the night. As far as I can tell from his activity level, he's coming out sometime around 9:30. Last night's footage around 9:24. He comes down. It is, like I said, it's an issue I don't know that I can solve. We're trying everything from bacon bubbles around his head. He's got a phobia about bugs, about anything that buzzes over his head and flies over his head. And as you can see by the camera here, we still have them at night, but we don't have the horse flies, we don't have the bees, we don't have the wasps, we don't have the hornets. Those are hot weather things, and those are hot weather, high humidity things that drive bulls to go underground. We've had this problem for 4 years. We're trying to solve it, but I don't think we can. I mean, it's in his mind. He's phobic about it. He wants to stay underground. That's great. It helps him. But when he comes down, because he's isolating himself, he's making himself a target for Axel. It's almost like he's dispersed. I mean, in the wild, wolves will disperse and leave their pack, and they'll find a mate, and they'll form another pack, and they'll become parents, and they'll become the adjoining pack, and then they'll be territorial with each other. That's the nature of wolf pack dynamics. So when you do it in captivity and he kind of stays out of the way, when he comes back in, they're like, hey, where are you? Why aren't you part of our social group? Even Denali, who got a mobbing, that I showed earlier, he's still part of this group, even though they had a bad moment. And again, wolves don't tend to hold grudges. It's a moment by moment thing. And if we can figure out whatever the frustration of that moment was and get over it, we can tolerate it as long as it doesn't affect an individual wolf's psyche. So what I mean by that is if I have wolves who are tucking their tails and clearly do not want to engage with anyone, that's a psychological issue of comfort. And there's Denali again, still talking about comfort, still sleeping. So here's what last night footage was. So I have a Ring camera. So in addition to Explore.org, I have a Ring camera, which kind of only captures like 30 seconds. It's a standard Ring camera that you have on anyone's doorbell, houses. So this is bolts coming in. This is what the inside of the medical pen looks like. I got a Ring camera on Grizzly in retirement. I've got one on Bolts for his medical pen. His tail is tucked, but what the good thing is about Bolts is that he can guard this space. So I'm going to play that over and over again just so that you can kind of see it. Once he gets past the chute, so when they follow him in, he's got a quick to a turnaround, that's kind of narrow. But once he gets past the chute and he can turn around and you face him, you see a lot of those times when Bolts can face off Axel. This was the first time. This was him just coming down last night. So the medical pen has water. There's food over here. There's kibble, dry kibble over here. There's meatballs over here. So he can kind of come and go as he pleases. And he could stay in there if he wanted. He doesn't, but he comes right about in the pack. And I didn't get a chance to capture it, but I do believe I saw on the Explore.org gallery last night that he was over by Denali, because Denali was sleeping right outside of the medical pen last night on the Explore.org camera, and Bolts came over and kind of sniffed him, did a tongue curl. So in other words, he went to go lick Denali in a greeting, and Denali, I'm sure, because he was guarding, probably showed a tooth and decided against licking it. So anyway, so that's Bolts' late night activity, and that's kind of what we know. The other thing I'm watching for is obviously the elements are always the cooking board. So this is footage out of the actually a sister red squirrels are really overall but the reality is with but what it is, this clip, and I don't think I got it from what I uploaded in the video, but I did see an image in the gallery at Explore.org. Both just walked right past it. So this is later in the morning, so it's a ritualized dance of where you been, how come you're not part of our pack, I'm going to harass you because you're not part of our pack. By 6 in the morning, he's walking around. His tail is in a T3.5. That means T3 means down by the haunches. T3.5 means it's touching the haunches. So T3, this is the relaxed tail. This is a wolf expressing just relaxed. Nothing going on, not concerned. If his tail was lowered and touching the inner thigh, that's T3.5. That tells me they're a little less confident. T4 tuck, that's the fear tail. So that's something that I really want to make sure I watch for Bolts, and know that Denali's for Denali as well. So, like I said, those are some things that I'm looking for. So if you're a viewer and you see a lot of it, by all means, send me an email. Curator@wolf.org. Send me an email. Tell me what camera's on, day or night. Just say, hey. I have the ability to turn on the Ring camera and turn on the audio, and I don't have that option with any of my other cameras. But that's why I like about Ring camera is I can yell from the Ring camera a wolf's name, and that may be enough distraction. I've done it before. Freaks Axel out a little bit because like, where is she? And he keeps looking for me. That is kind of a way that I can at least distract. And like I said, most of the time, all I need to do is one little distraction to make things change the dynamics from 3 wolves against 1 to 2 wolves against 1, where that gives that other wolf a better advantage. So I am concerned about it. I know people are concerned about it. I also want to say, please, does not make Axel, Bolts, and Grayson bad wolves. It doesn't. They're wolves, and I just can't reiterate enough how much the brain of these animals is triggered for hunting, for identifying weakness to identify prey, for pack health, pack dominance, pack dynamics, all very, very important parts of a wolf's life, and I cannot discredit that. All of those instincts allow this animal to survive some incredible odds of bounty systems, and certainly incredible odds of what I consider to be not a real fair shake in the world as far as tolerance and acceptance. So I got a new comment. Will the link for last week's webinar be sent out soon? Yeah, I sent out the link 2 days ago, Donna. So so I don't know why you wouldn't have gotten it. You're a subscriber, so it should have been in that email. I'll check again when I'm done here to make sure that you get it. So the question was, how was Grizzer eating this morning, and how have the wolves been handling the return of visitors to the center? So Grizzer this morning, because it was behind the scenes program, he got a deer leg, so he was all happy. He was a little nervous. I don't say nervous, but his vision's just not that great. So when we do it behind the scenes, he hears people, and actually doesn't hear very well either. He smells people, kind of hears a little bit, doesn't know what to think, doesn't see very well. So he kind of stood back. He watched from behind the den. He watched the people. He peeked out around the corner, and then went back, and then peeked out again. And then as soon as the deer leg was brought out, came right up, smelled the deer leg, and didn't eat it in front of them. But about 4 minutes after the behind the scenes program ended, he grabbed the deer leg and went in the bushes. So he did great. So that's the new pattern for him. Every Friday he gets a deer leg. And the wolves have been great about the return of the visitors to the center. So the question is, how have the wolves been handling the return of the visitors? Well, it's pretty cool. Grayson's a kid watcher. And a kid watcher basically means that toddlers stimulate the predatory drive, and Grayson is a predatory wolf, meaning Grayson has got, I think every wolf has got a different personality, and I would think everyone who watches Explore.org would agree with that. The benefit of seeing captive wolves, socialized captive wolves, is that, boy, you really understand the dynamics of every individual wolf and how they mix and how they meld and how they're different and how they form a social group. I mean, that's the reality of the benefit of socialized captive wolves. But I think what's really, I think what's really driving a lot of Grayson's kind of behavior of grab biting is because he also is predatory driven. There are young toddlers that walk by this window and Grayson is fixated. And when I say fixated, I mean running along the windows 6 inches away, following toddlers to the point where we politely ask their parents, would you mind if your toddler ran on the floor for a bit instead of on the shelf, because the shelf is eye level with Grayson and it's getting him ramped up. So Axel is a people watcher as well, but what Axel has learned is that, oh, the people are here, so that means the enrichment programs start. So at noon and at 2 and at 4:15, we do enrichments. Last night enrichment was the feeding of the deer at 4:15. At noon, there's usually something from the window that the educators give. At 2, we did an orange, a lemon, and 2 beaver tail popsicles yesterday at 2. Well, the orange and the lemon were a bust. They came out in the pond filter. The beaver tail popsicle, I don't even know who got that. I actually was so hot and humid I came in because it was disgustingly warm for me to be out there. And so I'm not sure who got it, but they've got it figured out. Actually, right now, I told the staff inside, I said, Axel must be on different time zone because he plops himself down in front of the window at 11 o'clock, and the enrichment does not start till 12. So what that means for the viewer who comes to the center is we got wolves right in the front. Axel is almost always down there, at least until the 2 o'clock enrichment when the sun angle changes and he gets a lot of sun in the front of the exhibit. Then he comes to his back. Denali, I don't think he's going to move. Like I said, what I need help with from people is Denali has an issue, from what I could hear from people. I've not seen him get up yet. I went over to try to check him out this morning, and he lip curled at me and did airplane ears, which said, I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to bite you, but I might have to. So, anyways, so he has a sore front foot, and I think it's probably from a lunge because it looks like from the shots on the gallery that he did a lot of lunging last night. So he probably twisted his ankle a little bit. So if anybody sees him walking, it's probably not going to be for another 10 or 12 hours. But also, he's going to be limping because he's laying around for 10 or 12 hours. Anybody who sits at a desk all day, you know when you get up, your knees creak. I do. I can't stand desk work because it's just so hard on the joints. If he's not moving, he's going to stiffen up. And that's why, really when those boys chase around, when I call Axel and Grayson the boys, when they chase around, I want to make sure, I like that Denali runs with him because that's really good for his body, good for his joints, is that he has that ability to keep moving. So that's important for us. So a couple more questions. Let's see if I've got any new questions here. Nope, I don't see anything new. And so I'll just kind of wrap up here then. The last thing I wanted to feature, nope, oh, it was it, the squirrel. So I think that's all that I wanted to feature. So again, thanks for checking in this morning. I will get hopefully this saved and recorded and posted. If not, I know that Elizabeth probably already has and will post it. So Elizabeth, thank you. I should put you on the payroll for helping me out with some things. Again, it's been kind of a lot of work in the last couple of weeks. We've had a lot of repairs. Our Mister system and our pond filter both had some issues, so we're definitely in that circumstance of fixing things. Anybody who manages anything, a household, an exhibit, anything, you're going to know that fixing things is probably, they say if no limited maintenance, things start to fall apart. And so we're kind of in that circumstance with only 4 core Wolfster air people here yet. It's causing us a little bit of a challenge. So with that said, I will wrap it up, and a staff member will always be on as a moderator at 11 o'clock Central Daylight Time, and be able to answer questions. And I'll kind of keep checking in as well because I do watch the gallery. That's something that I do in the morning. That gallery is a tremendous resource for giving me an opportunity to see, what's going on, and make sure that I get a sense of the pack dynamics. So I thank everyone for doing that. All right, we'll see you next time. This saved and recorded and posted. If not, I know that Elizabeth probably already has and will post it. So Elizabeth, thank you. I should put you on the payroll for helping me out with some things. Again, it's been kind of a lot of work in the last couple of weeks. We've had a lot of repairs. Our Mister system and our pond filter both had some issues, so we're definitely in that circumstance of fixing things. Anybody who manages anything, a household, an exhibit, anything, you're going to know that moderator at 11 o'clock.